Welcome to Conversations for Our Time podcast number 13 with the Quiet Sun team, George and John. Thanks to everyone tuning in for this mini series of regenerative permaculture podcasts. We are really trying to bring back these practices, and people around the world are already doing this, which is great to see. And we really want to bring cutting edge knowledge here onto these podcasts and share them with people because we can always improve how we grow food. If we take the time out to learn these things, and of course, that is taking back our power, reconnecting ourselves with nature, and with our food, and reconnecting where our food comes from, and ultimately, reconnecting with all aspects of ourselves. Always contact us if you have any questions, leave comments, and we're helping any way we can. So this will be part 3 of this the mini series that we're going to do. So how you doing, John?
Yeah, I'm good, George. Yeah, busy, expanding, and I actually tried qigong for the first time ever today.
Excellent. Tell us about that.
Oh, it was really great, man. It's just another way to connect to the earth,
Yeah, for
Food off,
sure.
and just you know, um, I suppose just playing with the energy that we have. As you know, as I said, it's my first time. Uh, the woman that did it is very lovely. Um, Monica knows her, and her grandson was there who lives in Barcelona. He's only like 21, 22.
Okay.
But weirdly enough, I started talking about what the climate's like at the moment.
Yeah.
He said, "So, do you think the whole climate change thing is like, a bit of a control mechanism?" And I was like, "Yeah, it is." So he then mentioned the Younger Dryas, which is an event that happened 12,500 years ago for people that don't know, which more or less
Another,
ended the last ice age.
another cooling period, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he mentioned this. Really
Wow.
interesting. So I just had this really, and Monica was standing there, just saying, "Oh, I wish I'd have recorded that because it was a really good conversation." But for such a young, you're not to be, patronising, but early 20s, and just really curious about the world. And his grandmother, the one that gave the lesson, is from Turkey, and they were going back to her homeland like a couple of days.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those other things, just another connection with lovely people that really care about the earth, who really want this connection. So I see these things as these beautiful kind of signs that the universe is sending us, just that we're on the right path. Things are difficult, and when you try to create big change, or build alternative systems, or go back to how things were, hundreds of years ago. It's difficult, but these are the little moments that you can be really grateful for, So this is what I'm trying to do, George, is quieten down the expectations, quieten down the ego, be curious rather than judgmental, and just be open to new experiences.
Absolutely. I think what you've just said there. I think it brings a lot of hope into the world of the newer generations. Because the information is out there, is whether people care to look and take the initiative to look, and that is really good. It is a message from the universe. These moments are little lessons that come to us. We just got to watch out for it and read these moments, because it's a message from the universe saying, you're on track. Things are changing, and it's important to notice these things. We know the doom and gloom side of all things, but we really want to focus on solution based, and doing any practices, that helps us, especially with energy.
Yeah.
And it's just an aspect of ourselves that we can heal from, and it's all energy at the end of the day. It's just another practice that connects us with ourselves. So it's all it's going in the right direction, I feel, anyway.
Yeah,
But
I feel it is, and it's what it's what you focus on, George. I mean, there's doom and gloom everywhere. I mean,
yeah,
we need to be really grateful and thankful that we live in the country that we do.
yes,
Many people
yes,
around the world that are exposed to, really horrible daily
hardships, yeah.
events, and
Mm,
I think to be in this position, the thing is, everyone's playing out their role, right?
yes,
Everyone is, and to make judgments, oh, that person's doing this, that, but actually, from a universal perspective, and some people might not get this or agree with this, and that's cool. But from a universal perspective, really, actually, what makes me feel comfortable and positive is that all this needs to happen, you
yes,
know? So it's not like we need to be focusing really on what we need to be focusing on is ourselves and improving ourselves, and that I could be really grateful for the life I've got, the opportunities I've had, the opportunities I'm going to have in the future, what's happening right now, my friends, my family, even though I might not agree and have the same opinions of most of my friends and family, they still have contributed to who I am today. And without their support, I wouldn't be who I am, you know?
yeah.
So,
I totally see that. Yeah,
and it's the same as, when a plant is growing, what makes a plant strong is not just all the positive things that are happening, it's also the attacks from the pathogens and that these things are constantly testing life. And the great thing about life is it cannot be stopped. No matter what narratives are out there or what heinous acts are taking place, life cannot be stopped. And you can see this from weeds growing through concrete, right? Or trees growing on rocks, or fungi growing around Chernobyl. You cannot stop life, no matter what anyone does. It's
and
impossible.
this is the beautiful thing. You can't stop nature. Nature has always a way of healing the earth and balancing it out and making life carry on. You can't beat it.
Exactly. Exactly. So all the negative stuff, it's still actually important because without the dystopian future that people are being offered, in whatever form you want to call it, you wouldn't have, and this goes throughout time, you wouldn't have revolution. You wouldn't have change. When a tyranny gets overthrown, it's because people have had enough. So
Exactly. Mm.
and that exists within us as well. We all have this battle going within us, and this battle within us is actually a reflection of what's going on in society, in the environment, in the natural environment, as well as what's going on, in Sierra Leone or whatever country you want to say, as well as the business and economics. It's all connected, So I think when you have this perspective, this microcosm to the macrocosm, it becomes easier to deal with all the negative stuff that happens to us, or happens with us, And kind of going on to the subject we're talking about today is growing food and being with nature is a great way to understand this.
It is. I agree with you, and it's about going back to, as well. It's a little bit back to basics, and this is
Mm.
what we're still we're still going to get into the technical side of things of growing food, but we're going to still talk about the basics for people, because there are people that we know that still, it's still overwhelming for people and they don't really know where to start. So we're going to do podcast after podcast, and we'll get deeper and deeper into these things. And whilst we're talking about spirituality and nature and etymology, we're just going to bring it all together,
Mm.
so they can take away what they want. So we'll pick up from where we left off. What I was going to talk about is just go back to tools. You know, same thing with tools. If you're a complete beginner, as I was saying on the last two podcasts, the book month by month allotment will tell you just what basic tools to get. Okay, and if you want to extend these tools, I would look into bushcrafting courses and books, which we've talked about in a previous podcast. But it's just about continuously learning more and more about any subject. If you want off-grid lifestyle, all of these skills are necessary, because people may think, oh, this all this costs money. It does, okay. And I haven't got my land yet, but there is still there's nothing stopping us, apart from us, to still learn this stuff and these skills, because you are preparing for the future in the moment of now. Meaning all this, your confidence will grow, and you're saying to the universe, I'm ready, or I'm getting ready, I'm preparing. And we should be learning this stuff just for the love of it anyway, not just as a necessity, but for the love of doing it. Whether it's about growing food, self-sufficiency, or any subject, we come here to learn, to empower ourselves. I'm sure you'll agree with that, John.
Yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, it isn't just about the end goal. I mean, this is about having it. We have one, whether you believe in reincarnation or eternal life or whatever, doesn't matter. As it is in this body that we each inhibit, or we each occupy, sorry, we get one life as we are. So it's up to each individual how they spend that life. But the question would be is, how do you want to experience your life? And for me, of course, you have these moments of serenity and quietness, but also I want to have as many experiences as I can, deep, fulfilling experiences. Yeah, I want to have the experiences that are superficial. Of course I do, whatever. But the point is as I've grown older, I'm in my mid-40s now. As I've grown older, I've realized that I spent a lot of my youth running away from myself, and that was my karma. But now I just want to experience a lot of things, and I don't just want to experience good things. It's good to experience heartache and, suffering, because they create character. And without that, you cannot possibly relate, or you cannot, you need this polarity between suffering and enlightenment. Yeah. And it's the same as when you're growing a garden. You need to make mistakes. Things need to die on you, because otherwise you cannot progress. You can't evolve. And it's the same for anything, isn't it, George?
I
So,
totally agree. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. It's about making those mistakes, and it's about learning from those mistakes.
yeah,
You need to see it from yourself. Oh, that didn't work. Not just from other people who say that doesn't work. Sometimes you have to see it for yourself and experience it for yourself, because
exactly,
everything is an experience, And
exactly.
even learning about, the climate and the environment, because that also determines what you want to grow. It's just another aspect of learning, compared with what you can actually grow,
That's it.
because that's the true thing about it. Wherever you are in the world, you may be prone to floods where you are, droughts, too much sun, heat. is it too cold, too little rain, or too much? Growing food is all about the balance of these things, and people have had trouble with regards to all of these, with in various periods of time and history, especially in these times. So, we have to look at where is the best place, John, and where is the worst place, would you say, in terms of climate and environment?
Wow, that's quite a broad, loaded question.
It is. I thought
I
I'd throw it
mean,
upon you.
I think what we're going to experience with the climate going on to the future, and we've seen this in the last couple of years, is these swings of it's becoming unpredictable. So if we take this summer, for instance, in the UK, we didn't have a summer, as far as I'm concerned. Not a
Yeah,
summer like we've had before. We
yeah,
had we had a cool May, yeah,
yeah.
um, and we had a warm June. I mean, people were saying it was hot, but it wasn't hot. It was warm, you know. And then we had a pretty non-existent July and August in
It was
regards
just
to
pretty
heat.
much a washout, wasn't it?
It was a washout, and don't get me wrong, we had warm days, we had hot days. Some days it got
Yeah,
up to like 30 degrees, but as a mean temperature, it was very cool. And in the Dolomites in Europe, it was snowing in August. They had 4 inches of snow, right?
yes,
In America, in the Sierra Nevadas, the Sierra Mountains, people were skiing and snowboarding into August. Last year,
yes,
Australia had a really cool summer, below average summer. They had Antarctic blasts coming up. We can go on, right?
yeah,
But the point is whether you have extreme hot or extreme cold, or you have, you know, um, these huge weather systems which are unpredictable, and this is down to the meridional flow. So the meridional flow of the jet stream looks like a meandering river, and with it, it brings cold air from the poles and warm air from the equator. Yeah,
exactly, yes,
that then creates these swings in temperatures, and that's to do with the sun's connection to the earth and the magnetic connection, the electromagnetic connection, which is all researchable, is easy to research. And actually, I've noticed on the BBC they've started talking about the jet stream a little bit more, right? So
yeah,
as far as growing food, we cannot change the weather. Even people that believe in weather manipulation, yeah, I know they can cloud seed and stuff like that, but even with these swings in temperatures, because things are unpredictable, growing on a large scale is going to become really difficult. With added to that, fertilizer prices being really high because of the way that the whole industry of oil is going and into renewables, and renewables are not going to be able to provide the type of energy that we want, that we
yes,
need. But that's another matter. But the growing on a large scale, thousands of acres or even hundreds of acres, is going to become really difficult unless we scale down a little bit and we start to use regenerative permaculture principles and techniques. So interplanting, creating microclimates, building the soil to capture more carbon, to capture more energy, to capture more water, using earthworks. Lots of different things you can do. But obviously, the larger the farm, the more difficult this is to implement and the more expensive it is. But there are companies out there that are creating these new solutions. And I think that, there's also energy fairs that happen around the world, There's one that's coming up in Colorado in America called the Crestone Energy Fair. It's been going for nearly 40 years. And they offer alternative energy methods. And I'm not talking about solar. I'm talking about really inventive, creative ways of,
Yes.
of actually creating energy. So if we can create microclimates on a small scale quite easily, which allows us to harness the energy, not manipulate the energy, but use the energy in a way that actually helps us and helps the plants. You
And
know,
this is
so
exactly what was the next bit about the microclimates that I was going to bring up as well, right the next moment. But because the reason why I brought all that up with you, because it's all going to affect the quality of the food that we grow and the
yeah,
quantity that we grow, and ultimately the quality of our lives. We do need to bring it to people's attention. So, if anyone is affected by any of that, we're going to talk about the microclimates. I don't think we talked a lot about it in the past podcast, John. We
no,
have mentioned it,
yeah,
but we'll go into that now and how to create them, because the beauty of this is, though, people are probably doing these things already, but don't know that it's actually microclimating, right?
yeah,
I only mention it here now because it's good to know what it is that we are doing, because it's just another way of establishing a connection with what we are doing with nature and why we are doing it. Not
yeah,
just doing it because others are doing it. It's been done just because it's been done for a long time. So
exactly.
let's go into that, the microclimates that we can
Sure.
create.
So a microclimate is really simple. Probably the best way to explain it, well, one of the ways to explain it is um, you can create a microclimate with one plant, right? So one plant can act as creating a microclimate for another plant. So if you have a plant that doesn't like a lot of sun, you plant it in the summer, you plant it on the north side of a plant that has a big foliage. What that
Yes,
does is the big plant with the big leaves and will create a shade for the small plant. That's a microclimate.
already. Yes, absolutely.
That's on
Just
the small scale. Yeah,
yes,
you can um, protect, you know, like a row of like summer spinach. Yeah, behind um, a row of beans or squash. Right. So you can also do this on a massive scale. So you can build, or a bigger scale. So hugelkulturs. A hugelkultur is like a translation as an earth mound. Okay.
yes, yes,
So you can create you can create a number of microclimates on this hugelkultur. So if the hugelkultur is running from east to west, yeah, on the south side of it, it's going to get more sun. It's going to heat up more. On the north side, it's going to get more shade. It's going to be cooler. On the east side and the west side, you're going to have, on the east side, you're going to have the sun in the east, but then in the west, it's not going to receive the full afternoon sun, and the same with the west side. So these things, it's really easy to create a microclimate. You have microclimates in the UK. So the Isle of Man, or sorry, the Isle of Wight is a microclimate. Yeah.
yes, yes,
It's an
yes,
island that sits off the south coast of England. Nearest city is Southampton, and it's a microclimate. It's an island, so it turns into a microclimate straight away. Um, but the way it's positioned is it's protected from certain fronts of wind. It receives very few frosts. We also have a microclimate in Essex. Yeah. So
yeah,
just
yeah,
where Essex is positioned, not far away from Southend, is, it may not be now, but it was until recently, the driest place in the UK. So you can have a microclimate on a mountain. Yeah, so it's basically just where the climate is different from the other parts of the geographical land.
Yes, agreed.
So as far as with growing food, is micro or discovering microclimates or creating microclimates just comes down to observation and seeing going back to when we were talking about aspects, seeing where the sun goes at particular times of the day, at particular times of the year, throughout the seasons. And when you
Yes.
start to manipulate the land, i.e., you might build a hugelkultur or a swale, you're creating a microclimate doing that. Or you plant a tree, you're creating a microclimate within that biosphere of that tree. So
Yes.
is that explained that enough?
Yes, no, that was absolutely brilliant because we didn't go into that in previous podcasts because people don't know, and I think there's a wealth of information that people can understand of microclimate in there. So no, that's awesome. That's brilliant. And just we've got just a bit more time to carry on. We've got a few more minutes. So these are a few things that people can do, little things we can do, just little practices even if you haven't got a lot of space, and you can do little tests in the soil to find out how good your soil is. You can do test the pH by getting a little soil pH meter. I've got a 3-in-1 to test the soil moisture, the light, and the pH. Just go into why this is so handy to have and why it's important.
Yeah, sure. So just as a caveat, any pH testing is never going to be completely conclusive because pH will change between seasons, and it will
Yes.
change depending on how much moisture is in the soil. And it will also change, it could change per centimeter. So you could have a different pH a centimeter away from where you're measuring the pH. That's not
Yes.
a bad thing. Actually, having a range of pHs, as long as it's not too extreme, is really good for your soil because it means that you can grow a lot more things. And actually, there's more access to different nutrients for the biology that will be in the soil. But getting an understanding of what the pH is, so if you have a raised bed, for instance, you might test, like, say, 5 different spaces within that raised bed. If they all come out around 7, fantastic. You know that you can grow plants that like pH 7.
7, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just giving this as an example. If it's like a pH 5, you not really going to be able to grow most vegetables there, but you can grow fruit bushes, you can grow blueberries. Yeah. Blueberries specifically because they like a really low pH.
Low pH, yes, that's right.
So the lower the pH, the more acidic the soil is. So acidic soil, plants with more lignin, i.e. woody plants, prefer a lower pH. Yeah, so in a succession, what we call succession table, an old growth forest has a much lower pH than a meadow. Yeah.
Yes.
So like a desert is one end of the pH, as one end of succession, and an old growth forest is another. So in a high pH, i.e. alkaline, you're going to get a bacterial dominant soil. In a lower pH, you're going to get a fungal dominant soil. Really, in growing food, if we want to grow a selection of crops, we want, and I'm talking about a range of a variety of crops, we want a pH between about 6.5 and 7. That's the ideal zone.
The ideal, yes.
But if you've just got an orchard, the orchard's going to fare much better in like a pH of around 6. Yeah, so than it would do in a pH 7.5. So you can use a pH tester like you've got. There's one called a RAPI test, which is done with you put soil with water and you have a little bit of powder. Yeah, and you put it in a machine, and that will give you a pH. Or you can use litmus paper. Everyone would have used that at school probably in science.
Yeah.
or you can actually send it off to a lab, which I do when I do like soil samples for people.
Because you can get the
And
most accurate result that way.
that will get the most accurate result, yeah, because they have, far more technological advanced machinery or technology. But you gotta also think is when I send off a soil sample, it's only a sample. Yeah. So what I did, a couple of weeks ago is I went to a farm and I collected a number of samples from different parts of this field. It's going to give me an average, but I'm not going to really know for sure until I plant plants. But the other thing, as a caveat to this, I just want to mention that plants have the amazing ability to change the pH. And you can change the pH of the soil. So if you have a pH of 7.5 and you want it down to 6.5, then you can plant plants that are on that cusp, and they'll bring the pH a little bit further down. You can add things like wood chips that will bring the pH down. So it's just understanding what the soil is, always measure it, no matter what test you're doing, whether it's pH, a biology test, or a mineral test, or a pathogen test. Is test the soil first, and then understand what you need to do to remediate it to where you want to get it.
Absolutely, and
But you
and
then
it's
need to
just like,
test again after you've done that to see what effect your actions have had. So yeah, the pH is really important, but it's not conclusive, and it doesn't define the sort. It's movable, basically. You can move the
yeah,
pH.
I think it's just giving people an idea how to do it because,
Mm.
it give them somewhere to start. But it is truly remarkable that plants can do that. It's just
Yeah.
insane, how intelligent that they are to do this because it's all about the balance that they want. Nature knows, and we are learning this stuff. So I think that's great. And I
It
think
does it
there's also,
naturally as well, George. Remember
yeah,
that nature is always trying to go through succession, and you can see this somewhere that's been clear cut. You will get different plants that come in. So if you ever walk in a woodland and the woodland's been cut, right, you'll get grass first, and then you'll get things like brambles, and then you'll get the small trees and shrubs. Nature is trying to push it towards that forest state.
yes.
So
Mm.
it evolution wants to go that way, you know.
It's
So
how it's designed. It's how he wants to do it. It's pushing
exactly,
it, And man tries to do something else, and it's like, no, nature's not having none of it. But ultimately, we just cannot beat. We cannot beat nature. We cannot beat the sun, no matter what the controllers of the world do.
exactly.
Nature would do its own
So
thing.
let's work with it, right? If we understand it and respect it, then actually nature will always provide for us. It's unconditional, So if we're really truly connected to nature, we can adapt, we can mitigate against any climatic change. This is what our forefathers and mothers did. All our
Yes,
ancestors, this is why you and me here, George, and everyone that's listening, you're here because your ancestors were able to adapt. That's the only reason you're here, because they understood how to adapt. And this is this is my mindset, my heart set is this is how I want to be, is I want to adapt and enjoy life for what it is.
absolutely. And we're relearning this stuff because obviously the last 100 years it's changed, but we are relearning. We're listening, we're watching, we're observing, and we're learning about nature again because she will take us to survival. And this is what it's ultimately about. And our ancestors survived through all these times. It's nature and history repeating itself, and you can never beat the cycles. So on that note, I think it's a great time to end
Brilliant.
the podcast, John. Thank you very
Fantastic.
much for your time.
Thank you, George.
These are amazing. These are honestly amazing podcasts, and we really hope that we can, provide a service for people, and if they need anything. So we're going to end it there, folks. Thank you for joining us, and please catch us on the next one.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, everybody.
Cheers, John. Take care.
Goodbye.